And when you film a documentary, is there a particular style or person that you like to follow?
Uh, Actually, I go with the flow. I mean, because to me, whenever I'm doing a story about somebody, I kind of my vision is more kind of like interview style, and then kind of back and forth B-roll because I like to talk to people and ask questions. Again, kind of like we're doing now because it's
Mhm.
nice to kind of have a conversation. Like I know some people like the fly on the wall style, which is kind of like you just kind of shoot it and just kind of let the story happen. But to me, I love the interview. I love because even when a filmmaker makes a documentary, right? It's still, even though it's about somebody else, it's still your vision.
Every challenge holds a story. Every struggle is a spark. Welcome to A Legend Forged, where athletes, heroes, and fearless fighters of disability defy the odds and rewrite the rules. Learn to live an unfiltered life with the unstoppable Aron O'Dowd. A Legend Forged begins now.
Our guest today is Wade Skin on the Legend Forge, and we're going to discover what makes him different in the world and what he does. Hello, welcome to the show, Wade. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Fantastic. Um, uh, Tell us about your trials and tribulations.
Well, so for me, oh man, I've had many of those from, struggling in school. I was labeled as having a learning disability. So like, I learn a little differently. It's not a bad thing. It's just sometimes needed a little extra help or, sometimes I would understand things a little different. Like I'll tell you this one true story, like for years, right? My grandfather tried to show me how to tie a tie. And for years I wouldn't get it. And one day there was his brother Scott from the church, right? He shows me how to tie and whatever he did, I don't know what he did different from my grandfather, but ever since then I've been tying my own tie. So, sometimes it's just I process things a little differently from some people, but it's not a bad thing. It's just what makes me.
And when you say process differently, what's that look like?
So for me, right, sometimes what may seem simple to one person, it may not always be simple to me. Sometimes me, I have to do things a little differently. Just kind of like, I kind of got my own way of doing things that kind of work for me. And, I'm not saying that to me, I wouldn't really call it a disability. I mean, that's what they call it. But I just say, it's just, I process things a little differently. And to me, I'm a very practical guy. Like I'm one of those people where like I try to simplify things other than make it complicated.
Yeah, keep it simple all the time.
It's simple. Some people like to do things a certain way, but and I get it. It's just like the other day, right? We had some gentlemen working on the house and there were two brothers working on the house, and like, one brother was doing something one way, the other brother wanted to do it another way. Like, everybody kind of had their own way of doing things, but people do what works for them. And that's okay.
It sure is. We all have our different processes, and that's what makes us uniquely special.
Absolutely.
Um, why do you think you feel like you're different?
Uh, I'm not even gonna just start with myself, but I'll just say that I believe that everybody is different. I believe that all of us are very unique. All of us go through things and we may go through similar things, but the way we respond to it is different. And I think that everybody is unique in their own way because all of us have our own personalities. We have our likes, our dislikes. We have a certain way of doing things. And sometimes, like, some people just like to do things a certain way. Like, some people like their hair a certain way. Some people like to wear glasses. Some people don't. Some people like to wear Jordans. Some people like to wear like basic plain shoes. Everybody just kind of have their preferences.
What's your style?
Yeah, but really my style is more like when I do dress up, I would like wear like a nice shirt, but I really don't, because like I have also had a vocal disorder. So I'm not really supposed to wear ties too much because of like sometimes I have problems with my vocal cord. So yeah, but I wear a tie every now and then.
You wouldn't think you'd have vocal problems.
Yeah, well, yeah, a lot of people, yeah. So what happened with that was like a few years ago when I was working at the funeral home full time, I was diagnosed with a disability called spasmodic dysphonia, and it's one of those things where like sometimes like when you get stressed or whatever, my vocal cords would change. Like I would sound like a totally different person. Like my voice would strain real bad and barely talking. So when I ended up leaving the funeral home from working full time, it got better actually, because I wasn't under as much stress and things of that nature. But yeah, absolutely. Sometimes if I get a little nervous or stressed, my vocals they don't cooperate with me so well.
Why did you get into the funeral parlor?
So what made me get into the funeral business? It was always something I wanted to do as a child. So I was maybe like, I remember being in what, seventh grade. I remember there was a young man, Terrence Matthews. He was like, "What, you want to be a funeral director?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I just pursued it and stuck with it. I remember my grandfather, he passed away. I think I was like in seventh grade. And I remember me and my Uncle Tim, we were the only two family members that went to the funeral home to just make sure everything was, right. And my Uncle Tim was explaining everything to me. So when I got to high school, my teacher, Miss Anderson, she called one of the funeral home owners here in Chicago, and he said, "Hey, show up in a gold tie, white shirt, black suit." And so I ended up working at that funeral home for 13 years, man. It was amazing 13 years. It was pretty cool, met a lot of cool people. And so I just stuck with it. And then I ended up going to school for it. In between the period of the 13 years while I worked there, I ended up going to school for it. So that's kind of how that came about.
What did you like about it?
I like that you get to meet people. I like that you get to help people. And I also just like that you get to bring people together, right? Like for some reason, I don't know what it is, but it's like I love to see people come together. And a lot of times, unfortunately, sometimes families don't always get together as much. Only time people really seem to get together a lot of times is, and it's not all families, but for a lot of people, they come together when somebody transitions. And you just come together and you help them celebrate their loved one's life, and you do what you can to make that process as easy as possible for them. So I mean, in that regard, it's something that I always wanted to do, and so I've been doing it ever since, going on 15 years now. So that's how that came about.
Why did you leave the funeral business?
Well, I didn't leave it. I left the particular funeral home that I worked for because, again, it was for health reasons. I ended up getting spasmodic dysphonia, and so when I was going to like my voice therapist and all that stuff, they were just kind of like, "Well, you're a filmmaker and you're doing a lot of other stuff. Why don't you kind of take it easy off the funeral home and kind of pursue other passions?" And so when I started, kind of taking my foot off the brake for the funeral business, and I started focusing on some other things, and then I ended up getting my intern license and things of that nature. I started like kind of balancing. I kind of had a better life balance. Because sometimes like if you don't balance your life the right way, you can cause a lot of stress in your own life. And so I had to learn to find that balance. So yes, I still do the funeral business full time, but it's just not in the same way that I was.
Wait, you're a filmmaker as well?
Ab-
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been doing it for 9 years, man. Like right after I went to mortuary school, I ended up going to film school. And so when I went to film school, it was cool because like I met a lot of cool people. I got a chance to start making movies. Like by the time I graduated, I think I had already made like 14 short films because I love being creative, man. I love being able to tell stories. I love being able to bring people together to shoot film and just, working with cast and crew and actors. I love all of it, man. It's fun.
Wow. So you're the guy that sits in the chair and says three, two, one, action.
Absolutely. And then I started doing a little acting too. I don't really consider myself an actor, but what happened was on this was like my very first episode to my web series, right? The main actor didn't show up. So I ended up having to step in and do the part. So then I just started acting ever since. Like it's not something that I prefer, but hey, sometimes you do, you get in where you fit in.
And what kind of movies do you like making?
I love making visual poems actually, and I love documentaries. And I'm gonna tell you why I like visual poems because like I love poetry. And at first, my web series didn't start out like that. Like I had a narrative type of web series going, but it ended up becoming more poetry because I feel like poetry is like a really good way to express yourself. Because being an artist is all about expression. It's about being creative. Like it's not about always trying to appeal to people. It's about expressing who you are because every artist is different. You know, yeah. I don't expect Spike Lee's movies. You know, to be like to be like Jordan Peele's movies, right? Like each of those people are their own individuals. They have their own vision, and I think that's a like a very big like I'm a very big Seth Rogen fan, right? Like I love Seth Rogen movies. Like I like his sense of humor, right? And so to me, every artist is different. So I never really compare artists because I feel like as an artist, you know, everybody's style is different. But I also like making documentaries because I feel like documentaries are fun because like you get to meet people, you get to like we're sitting down having a conversation now, right? You get to
Mhm.
conversate with people, you get to find out their story, you get to walk through their life, you know, you get to learn things about people. So I always say like documentaries kind of give you a very interesting look at people in their life and the things that they overcame, the things they've been through. You know, the people who, because even like a lot of times, like when you look at a lot of people in the world who have done a lot of great things, right? A lot of times we see the people, but a lot of times we don't see the people who were impacted, you know, the people that impacted their lives, the people who helped them get to where they were. So a lot of times when you look at people's documentaries, you find out a lot of things about people that you didn't know. So I think that that's like a beautiful thing. I think that it's a cool thing, you know. So documentaries are hands down is my favorite thing to make, you know. And I'm actually in the process of working on my pro wrestling documentary. We're gonna start shooting some more B-roll and more interviews for that today. So that's been almost like a 5 or 6 year process almost, and so I'm excited about that. But yeah, documentaries are fun.
And when you film a documentary, is there a particular style or person that you like to follow?
Uh Actually, I go with the flow. I mean, because to me, whenever I'm doing a story about somebody, I kind of my vision is more kind of like interview style, and then you know, kind of back and forth B roll because I like to talk to people and ask questions. Again, kind of like we're doing now because it's
Mhm.
nice to kind of have a conversation. Like I know some people like the fly on the wall style, which is kind of like you know you just kind of shoot it and just you know kind of let the story happen. But to me, I love the interview. I love because even when a filmmaker makes a documentary, right? It's still, even though it's about somebody else, it's still your vision, you know? And so to me, I believe that like to me as an artist, I like to see artists in their work, to be honest. I know some people like George Lucas, right? Like, even though Star Wars is a narrative film, right? I like that George Lucas actually gave himself a cameo in Star Wars, right? Like, I feel that every artist they should be a part of their work, you know, not just behind the scenes, but even in front of the camera because it's your work, you know. And I think that it's nice to be able to identify that, you know. So when you're doing a documentary and you're interviewing somebody, it's nice to have that conversation, you know. It's nice to kind of piece together because it's like it's a collaboration. You know what I'm saying? I
I
like collaboration. I like the collaborating style.
Ah, cool. And an artist, an art film is different, but artists, you've got these different styles of artists from Renaissance to abstract. When you see films, is your mind think I could do this, I could do that, and so on?
Yeah, yeah. You know what? It's funny you say that, right? Because I'm a very big Star Wars fan, and every time I see Star Wars, I'm like, wow, like you know, you can't reciprocate that, you know, but you can be inspired by it. And so I like, you know, the formula of the Star Wars saga, you know, and I like how George Lucas kind of took, you know, some things from, you know, kind of like Greek mythology and real life and things of that nature and just created this really nice story with the Force and the Jedi versus the Sith, you know, and I use that as inspiration. Like, you know what? As an artist, don't worry about trying to mimic what you see. Focus on just being creative and take something that flows from you and just take it and make it art out of it, you know, because again, if the world is just seeing all the stuff that it's seen before, nothing is original, you know. I like to see people like create things that are from them and things that make them who they are because again, that's what makes you an artist, right? You're
Mhm.
sharing your point of view with the world.
Having a different ability and being a director, does it stop you or does it make you go into a different space in your creativity?
I think it makes me go into different space. Like I'm very quick on my feet, right? Like I work with different filmmakers and different artists, and a lot of times I notice that my style is different. Like there are some filmmakers who, you know, everything just has to be like this. But then I'm one of those guys that, I understand that in life, right? I always say filmmaking is like life. Sometimes you make a plan and sometimes that plan goes out the window. So me, I'm one of those guys that you probably would want to work with if you have to improvise because to God be the glory. I'm a master at improvising, like because I understand, right, that stuff comes up, right? Because again, I've been in a film, working in film for 9 years. I've been in the funeral business for 15 years. I trained for pro wrestling for 2. I've been affiliated in it for about 5 years. And what I learned is things happen. And so a lot of times, in spite of everything, the show must go on. So you have to always be kind of quick on your feet.
For sure. You're a wrestler as well. Genie, what haven't you done, man?
I haven't ran for president yet, but I don't think I'm doing that. I enjoyed wrestling because, again, I grew up watching WWE. I grew up watching The Rock and Stone Cold, Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, CM Punk, Carlito, MVP, all of those guys who I really enjoyed and the storylines. And it was just fun, right? Like Kane is one of my favorite wrestlers, and I grew up loving it and watching it. And so it's always, I think that a lot of people have a dream of being a wrestler, actually. Like, I think that it seems like it's one of those things that's like far out, right? But I think a lot of people, like, really would love to even have that experience.
And what did you love about wrestling?
What I loved about it was that it was storytelling. I loved that I got a chance to work out a little bit. I got a chance to meet a lot of people. And at the shows, it was funny because at the shows, I would be out there talking to a lot of the fans and stuff and, helping out. Because a lot of times when you go to the show, you got to help put the ring up. You got to help break the ring down. So it's a long day. Like, man, the pro wrestling bit is very interesting. I tell you that. You get to travel a little bit, go from state to state. So, I got a chance to experience that world for about, 2 years on a consistent level. But then, like I said, every now and then I still pop up here and there. But yeah, I had a lot of fun.
I'd love to know what your wrestling name was,
It was going to be the $1 Million Mortician, but I really didn't. But you know what? I really didn't want to like really do any gimmick affiliated with that because like I feel like a lot of people have done that, and it's only one Undertaker, right? Like one Undertaker and one Paul Bearer. They did a great job with that. I think that they have set that legacy there. So me, I was just having fun, man. I wasn't really worried about a character, none of that. I was just training and just living in the moment, man. And that's where my joy came from.
Wow. You mentioned your grandfather a few times. Did he have a huge impact in your life?
Yeah, so both of my grandfathers were. Like my one grandfather, he passed away when I was in 7th grade. And so I remember him very dearly. He took us fishing. He didn't play. Oh man, but my grandfather was an amazing guy. But my other grandfather, he's been with us a long time. He just passed away back in January. He was 86 years old, still going to work, still getting around, still moving strong. And so, he was a very big part of my life. And, it kind of feels a little awkward sometimes because, he's not here anymore. He's always been there. He's not here. But, he raised us right and he loved us and he took good care of my grandmother. And he was the best grandfather anybody could ask for, So, it kind of hurts that he's gone a little bit. But, we're getting through it, And last Christmas, we were at the hospital with him. And, it's like, as you get older, you learn that Christmas is not about material things. It's, and I think the best Christmas I ever had was me being able to spend, that day at the hospital with my grandfather, not knowing that would be our last Christmas with him. But, it was a little different. But I'm glad that we took the opportunity to be there with him.
Wow. It just shows you the role models we have in our life,
Absolutely. And that's why you have to cherish people. Because I remember my grandfather, he would get off work and he worked in the city because we live in the south suburbs. So he would go drive downtown and drive back home. He would get up at 3 a.m. I remember one day my grandfather overslept for work and he jumped up. He was moving like a young man, hurry up, trying to get ready for work. But he didn't want to retire. He could have retired. He could have gladly retired. But he wanted to do what he felt he needed to do. And so I love that about him. And he loved it because a lot of people may not think about this, but when people get older, right? A lot of times we feel like you just got to sit down and take it easy. But no, people want to enjoy their life. Sometimes people want to get out and still do things. So I respect that. I literally do.
For sure. You're a man doing some complex things, and yet you learn at a different pace. Does it prevent you to do the things you need to do?
Sometimes yes and no. I think that for me, a limitation is just an obstacle, but obstacles are meant to be overcame. You know, And I think that everybody has obstacles, but the thing is that you find a way to overcome it. I mean, think about innovation, right? We live in an innovative world where if there's a problem, you don't bow down to the problem, you find a way to solve it. And so one thing about me is like, I always, with the help of my faith in Christ, that I always try to find a way to overcome obstacles because that's one part of life that always, like everybody has challenges, that's one of those things that's just part of being human, but it's just always good to find ways to overcome them.
Wow, and faith and religion seems to be a huge uh, medication for you to do what you need to do. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, again, everybody's different, but I mean, I can say it's worked for me so far, and I can strongly say that because, like, I'm always one of them people who believe strongly in prayer. I believe strongly in action. I believe, strongly in just staying focused because, a lot of things in life is just about how you focus. And it's always a way to look on the bright side of every situation, right? It's always a bright side to any situation in life. Like I know sometimes, life does present things that slow us down or challenge us, but again, challenges can be overcame. You just got to find a way to figure it out. And I think that that's where thinking comes in and being very observant. Because again, I like what you said. It's not a disability; it's just a unique ability. Because
Mhm.
sometimes, just because other people may, not understand some things, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily wrong. It just means that you just find another way to win.
Oh, for sure. And we're here on this planet to do a mission. I wonder what your mission is?
Yeah. Well, we just keep learning and discovering new things every day. You take life one day at a time, and you just make the most of it. And to me, it's just one of those things, right? Like there's a lot of things going on in the world, and so I tend to focus on the things that bring me joy and the things that help me to spread joy and love to other people. Because a lot of times in life, like, I'm not knocking anybody else, but I see a lot of times, you see sometimes people comment on things that they don't like and that. But for me,
Mhm.
being a person that work in the funeral business, I'm not going to spend 7 to 8 seconds of my life focusing on something that I don't like, or focusing on something that I don't really care about. To be honest, that's a waste of my time. And so to me, I don't like one thing about me, if I don't like something, I'm not gonna comment on it. Most times when I see things like, especially like when it comes to art or other people expressing their creativity, I never critique another person because that's them. And I don't understand their background. I don't know who they are. I don't know where they came from. So I would never criticize another man or woman's art. To me, I just try to be super supportive. And, if I see things in the world that I don't like, I don't really spend much time on it because it's a waste of my time, right? It's not edifying to me, and at the same time, it doesn't, for me, it doesn't give me the right to bash anybody or criticize anybody. It's just, I focus on things that bring me joy. And I like seeing people happy too. Like I love seeing people. I don't have to know people. I love seeing people happy. I love seeing people smile.
Wait, what do you think your superpower is?
My superpower,
Yeah.
my superpower is overcoming obstacles. My superpower is finding a way to win, without, without doing anything that can, do any damage. Like to me, it's always a way. And when I say any damage, it's like, I'm not talking about winning in a dishonest way, but I always try to be honest and I always try to find the honest way to win, because I know that in this world we live in, sometimes, things are not always perfect. Um, Sometimes people cheat their way through life and things of that nature, but I'm not one of those people. I do believe that it's always a way to win and do it in an honest way. So that's just me. I'm not knocking anybody else, but that's just Wade Simmons for you. That's just this guy.
Fabulous. And what are the dreams and the legacy you want to build and leave behind you?
Well, for me, I want people to know that I love God, that I believe in Jesus Christ. That is always, if people don't know me for anything else, I think that is the best thing they can know me for. But other than that, I would say that, just a man who loved being creative, and just love people. Because all the other things to me, it doesn't really mean as much if I don't treat people right. It doesn't mean any much if I don't have love in my heart towards my brother or my sister. So to me, if that's all people know me for, that's fine. I'm just a man just trying to live his life and just trying to do all the right things. That's all.
For sure, God made us somebody instead of a nobody.
Absolutely, everybody is somebody, and to me, like literally everybody is, and so that's like me, right? One thing I learned that's what like when I see different content, because there's a lot of content creators out here. Like a lot of
Mhm.
times when I see different things, like some people might think it's strange, but like when I see things and I like it, I would literally DM somebody and say, you know what, I saw your work and I like it, and I just want to commend you for it. What? And I ask questions. What got you into? Because everybody has a different story, and not everybody does that. But to me, I love for people to know that, hey, I saw your work and I loved it and keep doing what you're doing. That's important to me to encourage people because we live in this society where like a lot of times people are quick. Some people, not all, are quick to tear other people down. I'm not trying to tear anybody down. All of
Mhm.
us are human beings trying to figure this thing out called life, right? So if I see something that I like, I'm going to tell you, hey, I saw your work. I loved it. Keep on doing what you're doing because it's all about bonding and connecting. Like to me, I just love being able to connect with people and just it's not always about being able to, you know, get all in people's business and nothing like nah, it's not, I'm not one of them people, but I just want to know that people are doing well and that they're winning and that if I can do anything to help them, if it's in my means and power to do, I'm all for it because God has used people to help me. So who am I not to help other people? So to me, I'm just one of them people that just believe in just trying to be fair. Just trying to be fair. Like I know life isn't fair, but I try to be fair.
For sure. And what is one piece of advice you give someone that met you on the street?
Uh my best piece of advice would be whatever you do in life, use your time that God give you wisely. Stop focusing on things that you don't like or you don't care about. You ain't got to bash nobody or put nobody else down. To me, I know that I'm gonna leave here one day. So why would I spend my time worrying about what the next person doing if I don't like it, I don't have to watch it or anything like. But there's no reason to bash other people.
Where can people find your films and everything about you if they want to learn more about you?
Oh, if you want to learn more about this guy, look again. Hey, I'm just a regular person just trying to make a difference. But you can find me on Vimeo, Wade Filmmaker 777 on Vimeo. And you can find me on Instagram, Wade Jedi 99, always on the light side of the force, baby. And you can look me up on Facebook, Wade Simmons. Feel free to reach out. I do answer questions. I love talking to people. And again, if I see some of your work and I like it, be expecting a DM because I'm gonna tell you that I think you're doing a great job and keep going and stay encouraged. So that's all I got. But I just love people, man. I love
Wait, you're a Jedi and you're the Force? You didn't tell me, man.
people. Yep, trained by the best.
Wade, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. You're an amazing individual. Keep doing what you're doing. I look forward to seeing what you're creating.
Oh, absolutely, Aaron. And if you need anything and any support, this is not a one-time thing. I'm always there for you if you need anything, brother. I got you.
There you go, everybody. Another incredible guest showing that their disability is not stopping them. It's creating a different ability, creating films, wrestling, even helping your past one go to the next stage in your bereavement and stuff. So remember.